The last time the Fighting Illini visited State College, it resulted in Brett Bielema's 100th career victory as head coach and the longest NCAA football game in history. Illinois is back this Saturday night as Penn State opens up Big Ten play, 7:30 under the lights on NBC. Welcome to Season 4, Episode 4 of the Straight from the Crest podcast.
Hey, Straight from the Crest listeners. Stat Guy Chris here to remind you that this episode is brought to you in part by our friends over at Protocol Beverage. Made by a few dudes in Erie, PA who wondered, why doesn't zero-carb beer exist? Protocol's new light shift gives you the ultimate beer experience with zero carbs, a mere 80 calories, and they're shifting to what light beer should be. Savor the crisp, refreshing taste without compromising on flavor. Thanks, Protocol.
Because this Michigan team can score. It's not like there's some stagnant bunch that relies on their defense.
Welcome to the Street.
I think he can win us games. I think, thank you for your service, Cliff. But, I go back and watch last year.
We've got a little baby version of Wendell White, Reggie Bush cooking with Katron Allen, Nick Singleton. Katron Allen runs the ball. Nobody wants to tackle and people bounce off him.
For Episode 4 of the Straight from the Crest podcast, I'm your host, Michael David Kresovich. Packed show today. Justin Beck makes his first return in over 2 years, and joined, as always, by college football guru Garrett Bastardi. Fellas, how we doing? Justin, I'll start with you. You haven't been on the show in a couple years. Welcome back. Welcome back to the studio, brother.
Yeah, thank you. I am both humbled and motivated to be here. Really appreciate you guys bringing me on for this game, so I'm excited to talk some ball with you too.
We're happy to have you here, and today on the show, we're going to recap Penn State's win over Kent State, preview the Fighting Illini this weekend. But first and foremost, this episode is presented by Protocol Beverage. Link in the bio, must be 21 to enjoy. So on last week's episode, Garrett and I previewed the Kent State game where it resulted in a 56-0 Penn State win. I predicted 52-7. Garrett said 77-10. Our stat guy, Chris and Justin, have concluded that we are exactly right on the money there in terms of who was closer. But Garrett, I'm going to start with you here. Your biggest takeaway from Penn State's win last weekend?
Stat for you. Okay. You've been throwing some stats around early in the week, so I'm going to give you something here. Did you know that Tyler Warren had more yards passing this weekend than he did receiving?
I did know that.
I don't think you did.
I did. He also joined Keandre Lambert-Smith as the last guy to catch and throw a touchdown in a game.
All right, fine, whatever. Thank you for having me. I'm absolutely threatened and terrified to have Justin here. He's probably going to take my job here pretty soon. But pretty workman-like performance. Kind of a slow start. Can't really get away with that. I think that in the coming weeks, not Saturday night, maybe against UCLA, but then in a few weeks at USC, just cannot, even though we had 700 total yards of offense, you're playing a glorified high school team in Kent State. And I really am sorry for the disrespect, but they're just not good. And they're down to their third string quarterback, for most of the game. So, really liked how creative the offense was once it got rolling, but we were kind of saying, I saw you tweeting about it, Mikey, at times a little gimmicky. If we're out playing a game of EA Sports college football, it's fun to get gimmicky, but when you're playing real live American college football, it's sometimes it's better to just line up and run the ball down the other team's throat when you're better than them. So, a lot of good, but would like to see a more efficient start, as we say, play with some of these more competent teams.
Yeah, didn't absolutely love the play calling. I thought they got too cute, and referencing my tweet there, I just feels forced every time Bo Prabila steps on the field. It feels unnecessary. It kind of reminds me of the Lion package back when they had Tommy Stevens. But as you said, 718 yards, held him to 66 yards on the defensive side of the ball. Justin, we saw guys like Amari Evans and Liam Clifford really get involved in this offense. 8 players ran the ball, 10 players had catches. Is this kind of the leaf turning, in your opinion, in Penn State's offense where more guys getting involved, or is that just the kind of the result of Kent State being an awful football team?
Yeah, I think playing Kent State does have something to do with it. You have the opportunity to call plays you wouldn't normally call. Agree with some of the gimmicky comments that we've made. personally, I like the Lion package when it's Warren back there. I think we ran that with success back in 2021. I think it started against Auburn, where we would bring Warren in for short yardage plays and have him take the snap. I think if you do want to go to a package like that, Warren's the better option. I think he's a better athlete and poses more challenges to a defense than Bo. Obviously, Bo can throw the ball better, but having Tyler catch the ball behind or catch the snap really opens up a lot of different challenges for a defense to attack. I think moving forward, we are going to see more receivers get the ball. I don't think that the current offense is sustainable where Warren is taking a lion's share of the production in conjunction with the two running backs. But I don't think that the wealth is going to be spread the way it was against Kent State.
Let's go to the defensive side of the ball here. So Kent State completed 2 passes. Penn State held Kent State to 66 yards. It's fewest allowed since Michigan State back in 2023. Justin, what are 2 guys on the defensive side of the ball? And we've seen 3 games so far this year. Who's impressed you the most on the defense?
I think Mr. Consistent's been Kobe King. He is a force in the middle. He's obviously very physically imposing when you look at him. Like, he is as built as a linebacker can get. And then somebody that has played well but's going to need to continue to play well moving forward is Zakee Wheatley. Losing Kevin Winston for a long-term injury, which in Franklin terms could mean season ender, it could mean 6, 7, 8 weeks. But Zakee Wheatley is going to have to step up and really be a force in that safety room. I think that there is hope that Reed can continue to play the Lion position and not have to shift him back to the safety spot with Wheatley. And if Wheatley can hold it down and Lane as, and I'm going more than 2, and if Lane can step up as a true freshman at the second safety spot and we can keep Reed in that Lion position, I think we're going to be in a good spot for however long Winston's gone, and hopefully it's not the full season.
Yeah, absolutely. Garrett, back to you here. Drew Allar gets his second career 300-yard game. The last time he threw for 300 yards was the opener last year against West Virginia. It's been quite some time. He was 17 of 21. Threw 3, ran 1 in. What did you make of Drew's performance against a subpar team?
Yeah, throwing a beautiful deep ball is throwing a beautiful deep ball. You got to do it against bad teams. You got to do it against good teams. And he just has that knack to just, the ball, I believe it was Damari Evans, if I'm not mistaken, early in the second half. It's just, he's kind of got it when it comes to throwing that football. But, deep. Again, just not a ton to make of it. It was very much, it was all there. Kent State came out playing a lot of zone, and he was just able to kind of wait for guys to get open early and kind of, chop the ball down the field a little bit. And so the first real test, defensively is going to be this weekend, against Illinois. We'll find out a lot about, how far Drew has come relative to, we saw these performances last year against some of these subpar teams. This is a really solid defense, a really well-coached defense in Illinois, and I know we'll get to that here in a second. So, West Virginia hasn't been super impressive through the first 4 weeks of the season defensively, and so he kind of picked them apart too. I need to see more, of a sample size, and I think we're going to kind of get a really good peek under the hood as to how far Drew has come. But yeah, for sure. I mean, it's very clear the offense is more explosive. There's more creativity. I'd rather be more cheeky, I guess, if you will, and more creative than some of the stuff we saw over the last couple of years with Yurcich at the helm. So we're erring on the wrong side, on the right side of things offensively. Just got to see what happens when we go into conference play. You just got to roll the balls out and play and see what happens.
Yeah, I don't think Colt Nicky's really showed his bag of tricks yet, and I think we saw it last year at Kansas. The deeper into the season he got, the more the offense kind of flourished, and we've been seeing that week 1 compared to now. They've only played 3 games, but Penn State's 3-0, 56-0 win, school record in points, 21st shutout since 17th shutout since 2007. They're moving on. They play another undefeated team this weekend at 7:30 on NBC on Peacock. The Fighting Illini, the undefeated Fighting Illini, who has 2 ranked wins on the season. It's the Big Ten opener. Penn State's 16-15 all time in Big Ten openers. Penn State's won its last 3 openers and 6 of the last 7. Pretty successful there. Garrett, I'll start with you here, man. When you think of this Fighting Illini team, what first comes to mind?
A couple things. I mean, Luke Altmaier, the transfer in there from a few years ago, is definitely playing a lot better football this year. Just looks more comfortable in the offense. Last year was very hitchy. Very much he was a turnover machine. No interceptions so far this year for him. Just looks more comfortable in the offense. Aaron Henry, a really good defensive coordinator for Illinois. Their guys play hard for him. And so, they are complete when it comes to both sides of the ball being solid. I wouldn't say complete in a way that they're going to contend and win the Big Ten championship, but I'd say they don't have a ton of massive glaring weaknesses. I would say the offense is, pedestrian at times, if you will, but they're efficient, and they've done enough to win, two pretty big games on the road at Kansas and at Nebraska, obviously Friday night. And so those would be the two biggest things that stand out to me. And, Brett Bielema is a really solid football coach. Had a ton of success at Wisconsin, wasn't bad at Arkansas. Arkansas is a tough place to win in the SEC. But what he's done with this Illinois team, a little bit down last year, but, coming out of the gates, getting themselves into the top 20 in the country, is nothing to kind of scoff at. So I think we're in for a test, but similar to how West Virginia was a test. If this team is good, and if this Penn State team is good, like we think, they should probably win the game. But they're playing a pretty complete team Saturday night, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, Bielema has had kind of a lot of headlines this week, even though he was wildly misquoted and taken out of context, where he showed a lot of respect for Penn State and their fans. He said they're a lot like Nebraska. They're knowledgeable. They know football. And I'm sure both you guys saw the clip that's going around Twitter where he said whatever the hell that means in reference to whiteout energy. But then he went in to praise Paterno. He praised Franco Harris. But yeah, just a great ball coach coming in. And as I led the show off with, he got his 100th win when they beat us. I had the pleasure of being on the Illinois sideline during that game, which was while I was with the Big Ten. It was hard to be objective there when Penn State just lost in a 9 overtime game. But he actually claims that since Saban retired, he has the most O-linemen drafted in the NFL, which I didn't look it up to fact check him. I'm just going to believe him. But we're going to go over to Justin now. Justin, from that game a couple weeks ago against Bowling Green to where the team is now, what should Penn State do to avoid that slow, lackluster start? Because Illinois is an undefeated ranked team. They can't get down like they were against Bowling Green.
Yeah, I think, it's very easy to say they have to stay on schedule. The thing about our offense that's bothered me to this point is that we feel very boomer bust. It feels like our drives, when we score, they're not sustained drives. We have big plays that get us close to the end zone or into the end zone. And I think whenever you're playing a ranked opponent, you have to find ways to keep the chains moving consistently and not go 3-and-out, 3-and-out touchdown, 3-and-out touchdown. You know what I mean? Something that we can do to keep on track is maybe look at some of I really like the jet sweeps we were running last week with both Singleton and Allen, where we got them moving laterally to take the ball, so they got a running start. I like those plays. I think we should continue to use those plays. But as far as starting slow, I think it really all starts with the offense. I'm not going to get into defensive scheme. I'm sure that we're going to talk about that later. But Illinois does have some pretty serious playmakers on the outside. And as Garrett said, Luke Altmaier is playing better than he did last year. Last year, when you look at the score, we won. It was 30-13, but Altmaier had 4 picks. I don't anticipate him doing the same thing this year. And they have added some new weapons with Zachary Franklin, who comes from UTSA, and then also Ole Miss from last year, but he didn't play much last year. So on the offensive side of the ball, keep the chains moving. Don't look for big plays right off the bat. Let's get drives. Let's sustain drives. Let's keep our defense fresh and really put them in a position where they're pressured to do the same, right? If they are also forced to play conservatively and have to try and sustain drives instead of looking for things with the quarterback and the 2 wide receivers that they have, I think we can win that ball game. I also think we can win a shootout. I think we're the better team. But I think our best game plan is one where we control the pace of play, we control the time of possession, we keep our defense off the field, and we sustain drives.
Yeah, this is a Fighting Illini team that brings back 13 starters, an experienced bunch, plethora of transfers in. And one thing that I picked up is they're a predominantly on the defensive side of the ball, they're a single high safety team, which Penn State was horrible against last year. They've been playing much better under Kultnicki. Last year, I actually found this in terms of EPA per play, they were 77th in the country against single high safety last year. This year, they're third. So just a tremendous improvement there in terms of the X's and O's. But I'll just do a quick personnel flyover here. We already mentioned Altmaier. He's been a guy that's been with the program for a long time, originally at Ole Miss. He's completed 71% of his passes this year, 862 yards, 10 touchdowns. Justin said he hasn't thrown a pick, or I think one of you guys said it. We all three of us agree he hasn't thrown a pick. Caden Fegan's the running back who Belima actually equates him to Franco Harris. He's 250 pounds running the rock back there. Franklin on the outside. Pat Bryant is another guy to look out for. On the defensive side of the ball, they got a stud in Seth Coleman, who might be a future Steeler one day as a linebacker. And Matt Bailey is a good defensive back for them. They're an aggressive team. You're going to see a lot of man coverage, 5-man pressures. They're going to get after Drew. Back to Garrett here. Dating back to that Bowling Green game, after the slow start, we kind of saw the defense in the second half really step up. Any concerns this week in terms of Illinois? What do you think the biggest threat is for Penn State this weekend?
Yeah, I think Penn State's played against one efficient passer so far this year, Connor Bazelak, and didn't perform very well against them. And so, we saw last year. I mean, we really thought that we had 2 potential first-round picks at corner, and if there was any part of the defense that was underwhelming, it was portions of the secondary at times. And so, I sat there and watched this week. Bowling Green play basically the same exact game they played against Penn State, against Texas A&M, and it's very clear that Bowling Green's actually a pretty good team. And so, the adjustments that Tom Allen and the defense were able to make, I think is something that's encouraging against Bowling Green. And obviously, there weren't really a whole lot of missteps against Kent State, but again, we can kind of talk about it. I know it's kind of a cop-out answer, but you're playing another good quarterback. Was the Bowling Green game a little bit of just an anomaly and they just kind of came out sleepwalking out of a noon game, or was it something that is a little bit of a concern in the secondary? We will find out. There is going to be no excuse to say, oh, well, they sleptwalk through the first quarter in a game that's played on Saturday night at Beaver Stadium. The defense is going to be, show its true colors and should have its best performance to date. If it is that good of a defense in a secondary. And so, Altmaier arguably statistically has been been a more effective quarterback than Drew has been in a more tense setup. They've played 2 very difficult games against solid teams, one in a very hostile environment against a ranked team at Nebraska. So, is there concern? Yeah, I definitely need to see, the first, quarter at least of the game Saturday night to have a really good feel as to, okay, is this secondary a strength or is it going to be a liability going forward later into the season?
Yeah, I think it's obviously Penn State's biggest test. I don't think West Virginia is that great of a football team. I would argue Bowling Green's probably on the same level. But with those teams, they're still not probably a top 50 team in the country. And Illinois is ranked. Illinois they play Michigan and Oregon. They play a lot of their Big Ten games at home. They play 7 home games this year. They have a favorable schedule. So if they could win this, Illinois could potentially see themselves close to fighting for a spot in the Big Ten championship. I don't think they'll do it. I think they lose this weekend. But with that being said, guys, we're going to get into prediction time here. So since 1997, Penn State is 9-2 against the Fighting Illini, but they've covered in just 2 of those 11 games. I'm seeing the line right now at 17.5 points. Justin, I'll start with you. Who's winning this game? How do you see it going? And who's scoring the first touchdown for Penn State?
Yeah, so I know I made a big fuss about Penn State staying on schedule and having sustained drives, but I think Penn State and the points. I think it's 41-10, 41-13 game. First touchdown is going to be Nick Singleton. He's going to rip one off. It's going to be Saquon Barkley-esque against Michigan. I don't know if they're going to do the quarterback running back swap thing that they did against Michigan, but it's going to be Singleton on a long one. This game's not going to be close. They're not as good as us. It's simple as that.
Wow. I'm hoping you're right, but something tells me in the mid first quarter I'm going to get the famous Beck text that says, "Are we good?" ? When we're losing to Bowling Green.
Listen, it's very fair to say, "Are we good?" when we're losing to Bowling Green, but I know that we're good. And if we're just common opponent watching, the Kansas team that you guys are giving them credit for beating because they were ranked is 1-3 with a loss to an FCS school and a loss to West Virginia, who you said wasn't a top 50 team.
All right,
So,
let's pause. UNLV is not an FCS school.
Okay, they might
calm down on that.
West Virginia is not a top 50 team.
Okay, well then we're giving Illinois credit for beating a bottom 50 team.
But they were ranked.
Doesn't mean they were good. So was Florida State.
Florida State's not bad. Florida State hasn't lost a home Saturday game this year yet. Their only losses are on a Monday night to Boston College, over in Ireland. Let's not count the
They
Seminoles
survived.
out.
They survived woke night in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
I mean, Cal turned that place into woke Campbell Stadium. That was probably their biggest threat. So, don't be down in the Knowles like that, Beck. Come on, man.
So big win by the Nittany Lions. We'll go over to Garrett. Garrett, give me your forecast for the game. How's the weather looking, by the way? We haven't really tapped into that side of your brain this year. What could people expect in Happy Valley?
Yeah, big hurricane coming up from the Gulf, Hurricane Helene. Worst of it's going to stay off to the south of the area. Some showers. Through the day, it'll be cloudier, maybe a little cooler. Not one of the best days that we've seen so far this year in Happy Valley, but when I say cooler, it's going to be in the 60s at game time. Maybe some drizzle. We've seen this before. Maybe not as bad as the whiteout game last year against Iowa, which was pretty wet. There's going to be some on and off showers. So I don't think it has too big of an impact. Shouldn't be. Maybe some wind coming out of the east, and so that's the extent of it. To me, I think this ranges anywhere from Penn State close. Yeah, I tried to go through my head about in what ways can this end up being 09 against Iowa, right? Night game, big hyped game, and Penn State lays a massive egg. I just don't know if they find a way to lose this game, they're just not that good of a football team. That's how I always end up saying it. And so I think the offense ends up being efficient. Something to think about is Colton Nickey at Kansas last year kind of picked apart this Illinois defense, as when he was the OC last year. So it's not like he has not seen this scheme before and hasn't had success against it. And so they're going to be an aggressive team. I think he's going to have something schemed up for them that's going to be, there's going to be 2 or 3 plays that are just purely schematic that we end up either scoring on or getting a big play out of. And so, look for that. Limit turnovers. That's something that this Illinois team can find a way to hang into the game. It would be the secondary making some plays. And as we're more aggressive, this year, there's been some more turnover opportunities. Long story short, I think Penn State wins 31-14, 31-17, somewhere in that range. I think it's probably a pretty competitive game early. I'm seeing 19 points on the line. I've seen anywhere from 17 to 19. I couldn't believe that was the opening line, but they don't air condition the desert for nothing out there. So, Penn State's 4th overall in total offense this year. Something I did not know. Been very efficient. Both running backs are good. Just too many weapons on, for the Nittany Lions. So I like a win. And if they do end up losing, then we might as well just close up shop for the year because the team's just not that good.
Yeah, to me, this game isn't one of Penn State's patent losses that we overlook and they lose when they should win. But the way I'm talking now is kind of sounding like it is. But I have that as a UCLA game. They're not going to lose UCLA, but I think that's a game that people would think it is. But I'm with you. My score is a little closer to Garrett's. I have them 29-17. I think it'll be a very slow game, and I think they're going to get a score late to make it closer than it looked. I anticipate kind of a slower start on offense. I hope it's not, but I've just every time I think it's going to be a blowout, they turn into the 72 Dolphins, the opponent Penn State is playing against. But nonetheless, it's going to be sweet watching. I know Justin and I will be up there or Justin will be going to the game, actually. You're going this weekend, right?
Yes, I will be there. I can't wait.
So you'll have
wearing
boots on the
white?
ground.
I think I'm probably going to wear white. At the very least, a white poncho. And I will be texting you both, I told you so, when Nick Singleton goes down the sideline for 60 to start the game.
We'll get that. Well, I appreciate both you guys here joining today.
Are we going famous alum or what?
Yeah. We'll do that. Yeah. It was nice to bounce ideas off you guys. But let's go famous alum here. It's Big Ten season. It's not spooky season yet, but for those unfamiliar, first-time listeners, we do a draft pick of favorite alum from the school. Justin, since it's your first time on here, we're going to snake it. You go first for the Illinois Fighting Illini alum draft pick.
Okay. Yeah, so clarification, not my first time on here. First time
in 2 years. Thank you.
My pick for famous alumni is going to be Larry Ellison, the CEO and founder, I guess he's the CTO now, of Oracle, also a staunch defender of free speech and an overall great American.
Yes.
All right, go ahead. You're up second.
Me? I'm gonna go D Brown. For those of you that are Big Ten basketball fans, that was a dude who was very big in my formative basketball stages of my life. So, D Brown, that 05 Illinois team, they were some studs. So there's pick number one for me.
All right, I'd say it's a snake. So I'm going 2. I'm going Artist Jeremiah. He used to have some bops back in the day. And then number 2, I'm going Darren Williams, basketball player.
I'm gonna go Jesse Jackson. Maybe not somebody that Justin wants me listing off here, but just famous guy. No hard feelings either way, or maybe some hard feelings towards him, but he's famous, and that's the only other famous guy I've ever seen that come out of Illinois at this point. So we'll go Big JJ.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm getting Dick Butkus as the last.
Wow.
Pick. But yeah, Dick Butkus, the NFL Hall of Famer, absolute stud middle linebacker, great mustache. What's not to like?
Nice.
Am I on blast here?
Yeah.
All righty. Rounding out the draft picks, I'm gonna have to go with. Oh, this is tough. Dorothy Day, American journalist, social activist, and anarchist who became a Catholic with abandoning her social and anarchist activism. Perhaps the best known politician radical among American Catholics. Shout out Dorothy Day.
Man,
what a pick!
Hey,
I can't believe you didn't pick Lou Allen.
No, that was my second one. That was my
Chief of Staff of the Air Force. I can't believe that.
But if you guys are going to the game this weekend, enjoy. We appreciate you listening. And we'll see you back here a week from today with the UCLA preview. Justin, Garrett, thank you guys tremendously. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks, Mikey.